So, some of you know that I've been away for a few weeks. Rest and renewal. And there's something about re-entry. Like, what planet am I on? What day is it? What time is it? And the other day, we had an appointment that had been made before, Nancy and I had an appointment that had been made before we left. And it had disappeared out of my phone. And she said, oh, we need to be there at 10. And we got there. And sat and waited and waited. I finally went out and I said, did we have an appointment today? She said, oh yeah, but it's at 11. You know, one of those situations where you think, ooh, what can I do, right? 45 minutes. Yeah. By the time we got any place, we'd have to turn right around and go back. And fortunately, it was a place that had a relaxation room. Some of you know exactly where I was. And usually, I'm running on the edge of late, right? So I haven't had time ever to just sit in the relaxation room for any extended period of time. But this time, I thought, okay, here I am. I'm just going to be fully in this experience. And there was a video of water. By the end of 30, 35 minutes of just watching those water scenes, I thought, wow, this is amazing. I just feel so peaceful and happy. What is this? What's going on here? And of course, I've been for a couple of weeks now in the aura of this topic of release. And it occurred to me, oh, well, that's release. So I'm going to share with you just a little bit so you can get the feeling what that experience consisted of. First, it was this beautiful lake shore. And the water was limpid, clear, crystalline, little ripples. And it was so clear that the sun and the shadow were frolicking with each other. And then the scene shifted, and the color of the water deepened into a darker blue, and instead of the little play of light and shadow in the ripples, there were waves breaking on a sandy shore. And the waves swept in and petered out, and then just as smoothly reversed course and went back, and then the water swept in again and swept back. Such an amazing, steady, primal rhythm. The rhythm of life. The rhythm of love, the rhythm of us, of our shared nature. And then the scene shifted once again, and I was watching a torrent of water noisily rushing down through rocks, white foam spattering, and that rushing sound, and the continuity of it, the dependability of it. Nobody turned off the faucet. Was, okay, this is the power of the rhythm of life, of love. This was an experience of oneness with everything. This is what it is. It's a tempo. It's a dependability. It's rhythm. It's pulse. It's breath. Poet Mark Nepo tells us, quote, "Being human is to be in a constant state of return." Return to sacredness, to wakefulness, to the fact that we're all on the same journey, alone and together. We're safe and then afraid. We're calm and then agitated. We're clear and then confused. We're enthusiastic and then numb. When we lose our way, each of us is challenged to discern and embody a very personal practice of returning to what matters, to what has heart. That was the essence of the water, a constant state of return. It's our essence. It's the essence of being one with energy, and of being solitary in ourselves, and of returning to awareness of oneness and knowing our solitude, and moving back into awareness, and then being caught by fear. But the flow was the important thing about life. The constant flow. Richard Rohr, the Christian teacher, said something in one of his daily reflections in the past couple of weeks that struck me really forcibly. He said, quote, "Without release, nothing new happens, and we remain frozen in a small past." Think about that. Without release, without allowing ourselves to constantly move back into the flow of life, when we don't release whatever might keep us out of the flow, nothing new happens. We remain frozen in a small past. That's generally what hangs us up, is something having to do with a smaller past. We've been studying the 12 powers. We're coming to the end, and as we come to these last three major shifts in awareness, this one, release, is at the heart of all of them. Because for all of them, the question has been, how do I return to awareness? How do I let go my small self and to jump back in to the flow that's happening? That flow is so powerful. I've been thinking about what the flow really is. And what came to me was thinking about the definition of being anything but a good parent. What does that mean? It's something everybody has thought about, either about their own parents or about their own parenting or about their kids' parenting, yada, yada, right? We've all thought somewhere along the line we thought about parenting and made judgments. And I became really aware of the flow of consciousness just over the last 100 years and how headlong has been the evolution of human consciousness just over the 20th century. Thinking about that one concept, but it's an example. And I was led to think about parenting because I spent last weekend at my sister's 50th wedding anniversary, and the whole family was there. And so I got to see nieces, nephews, kids, grandparents, grandkids, aunts and uncles. My parents, of course, are not there anymore, but in so many ways they were. You know, an expression on a face, something that somebody said, an attitude, you know, I mean, they were there. Not many people there anymore knew them. But, you know, I was in a privileged position, a pivotal position at the beginning of the 21st century. And was moved to think about my parents and what they thought of as being good parents. Now, they grew up in the 19-teens and 20s. They grew up about 100 years ago, right? Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And they had a very clear idea of what it meant to be good parents. And they worked hard at being good parents. And what that meant to them, conditioned by the time of the turn of the 20th century, was for 18 years, they assured us of 3 square meals a day, a roof over our heads, and a regular life with school and church and, you know, regular places to be and rules to follow. Man, they worked hard with 5 of us to make that happen. And when we turned 18, boy, they were done. But you know, by the time we were 18, there was a whole nother consciousness that had swept into human awareness. And I'm thinking here of the spiral dynamics, those of you that have had any contact with that awareness evolves. And I really became aware of this rapid evolution in the 20th century. Because by the time I was 18, 19, going to college, which I found ways to pay for myself, because that wasn't their plan, I was firmly embedded in an orange awareness. I didn't want to have anything to do with these rules, right? For me, everything was all about what you know and what you're capable of. Education, science, orange awareness. That's where I was. That conflicted terribly with my parents' idea. I looked down on them. I shouldn't ought to have, because they really fulfilled their generation's image of what it meant to be a good parent. And I wasn't there by the time I grew up. I was someplace else. But of course, as time rolls on, we get to experience from the other direction what we judged. And I became a parent. And as my daughter grew up, she wasn't orange at all. I was. I kept trying to, embed this in her. But she was, with her generation, very aware of green, of sharing, of collaboration, of nurturing the environment. And my challenge as a parent, by the time she was in high school, became learning from her and moving myself ahead so that I could also embrace this sweeping flow of consciousness that would have swept right by me if I hadn't jumped in, and did in some ways sweep by me until I finally jumped in. But now she's a parent and she's got teenagers. Guess what? There's a whole new consciousness. And her kids, somehow, don't ask me how, they are very global in their awareness. There's nothing local. There's nothing restricted. I mean, they have friends all over the world that they play games with. Go figure. And these are just examples. They are deeply embedded in the global culture of geocaching. What's that? Well, that's my challenge as a grandparent, right? And her challenge as a parent. But in that 100-year period, just think about how consciousness, how human consciousness has shifted, has evolved. Just like the mountain stream, just like the powerful waves, the flow. It keeps going. The world keeps evolving. And there's a basic principle about flow, and that is, if you're in the flow, it feels good. And if you get stuck and get hooked by something, it's painful. So going back to my conflict with my parents, that was very painful for them and for me. I mean, they went to their graves thinking, why isn't she ever gonna finally understand what we tried to teach her? I was fortunate that I had given that a lot of thought and realized when I got to that place in my parenting flow, I didn't want to do that. I did not want to get stuck because it was very painful for me to have them stuck. So, I tried. It's hard to just go, okay, we know that, right? That's what we need to do. It's what we need to keep doing because we are one with the energy of the universe. That is continuing to evolve. That's us. And it's painful to be caught up and not be able to be us. And what do we get caught up in? We get caught up in ourselves. We get caught up in our belief that we're separate, that we're a little universe unto ourselves. That what happened to me is what's most important. When we get caught up in what we think happened to me, that's when we suffer. We have to just let go into the flow. Barbara Marx Hubbard, whom you have heard about before, she's always way out there on the way cutting edge, right? She's now talking about a new species of human. Human Homo universalis. It's not the first time the term has been used, but it's a very interesting definition. What it means is people, humans who have opened to the flow of awareness and are letting go, are habitually letting go the notion that they individually are important, that their stuff individually is important, that their possession, their active possession, their lack of release as any reality. My money is not my money. My health is not my health. My time is not my time. Right. That's Homo universalis. And it's happening, whether we're with it or not. And happiness comes from being with it.